Okay, so we should be live, and today is a working session, kind of, but I want to go over some things that I have been noticing and working on. Just checking my volume over there. So um, the other day I was just sometimes just very late at night. I'm just laying in bed and I am just like writing notes in my phone, uh, and about all these things that I want to talk about on here. And sometimes we actually get to them. But the other day I actually did write some good ones down. So they're about relationships. And so I was trying to think, are there specific types of human relationships that are objective? Okay. So what I found was that yes, absolutely, it appears to be the case. So let's start here. So perspectives and relationships. And will these perspectives that are the perspectives that are part of sentient singularity theory line up with the relationships in our lives with people? And that was the main question. Okay, so let's make this easier for you guys to see. There. So the primary perspectives are always inside, outside, separate, oneness. So there should be 4 relationships between people that are primary. They are entangled, and they should be entangled, aka they should be interdependent, and inevitably interdependent, and also they should be the most important ones or the closest to us. And of course, that is the case. So you have parent, child, sibling, spouse. Okay? These are one, and these are separate. Your child comes, one of these is inside and one of these is outside. I'm not sure if child should be first and then parent, but I don't know. It could be like child, parent, because parent is outside the child is inside the parent. So, like that. So that's 4 primary relationships. Then there should be another level to this of secondary relationships, where instead of oneness within and oneness without, should be another set. Okay, would be like probably grandparent, grandchild, grandparent. Okay, and so that's 6. So really, this is like, it's basically singularity. Oneness is singularity when we transform it in the primary perspectives being transformed into the fundamental perspectives. in the quantum of consciousness, basically oneness divides into a triality between singularity, oneness within, and oneness without. So here, if we're going to have oneness within and oneness without, then we'll just make this singularity, and it lines up with spouse perfectly because you are one with your spouse in a way that you aren't with anyone else. So then we have the tertiary relationship. So we're on perfect track. This is 6. This is exactly what we want. The next should get us to 9. So we have cousin, and then niece, nephew. We don't really, there isn't like a nephew. And uncle. There isn't a gender neutral word for niece and nephew or aunt and uncle, which is weird. There probably should be. So there we go. 9. Perfect. And then we have quadratic relationships. Quadratic relationships will be the last ones, and they should get us to 12. And those are friend, acquaintance, and enemy. And I was sitting there thinking, like, is it coworker? People think, oh, I'm just making up, like, you know, relative, you know, words here that aren't really, they're not objective, but I have thought about it a little bit. This is new, but I did test it a bit, and I was like, oh, well, should it be a coworker instead of acquaintance? But the reality is that your coworker can be your acquaintance, your friend, or your enemy. So a coworker is a subjective one, whereas like a friend, an acquaintance, and an enemy are defining of how you relate to these people, and they don't change. Your coworker can be your enemy or your friend, but your friend is your friend always. Can also be your coworker, but it can't just be your acquaintance, and it can't be your enemy. So there is an objective, there is objectivity going on here. So that's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Which is perfect because 12 is 3 times 4, which is important because we have this triadic structure that's also a duality that is also quadratic. And what number is divisible by 2 and by 3 and by 4? The lowest one is 12. So it makes perfect sense. I'm not sure what the perspectives would be here that would be aligned with these, though. Because you're kind of breaking into not relativity, but you're beyond the most critical aspects of an objective pattern once you get past the 6. Because really, what it is that it's only 6, but those are perceived by 2 beings. So basically, one being sees 6 and the other being sees 6. So you're basically seeing 12. But this is difficult to represent in different words. So basically, you'd have to be like, what would this be? This is 6 now. We've already got 6. Yeah, so basically you would be like here. And you would be like oneness oneness within, oneness without, but this would be like 2 dash 2, and then this would be like singularity dash 2, and then this would be or maybe that would be like that, and then it would be like inside 2, outside 2, separate 2. So basically it'd be like that. Let me know if that makes any sense. But this is starting to form a pattern, and this shows you every single relationship in your life. Do you know any other relationships that you can think of that are objective once after this 12? I can't think of any. Everything else is subjective. It's like it's fleeting. It's not eternal. Kind of friend and enemy can alter, but and acquaintance as well once you get past 9, I guess. But these never change. Your parent, your child, your sibling, your spouse, your grandchild, your grandparent. Your grandchild is your grandchild for life. Your sibling is your sibling for life. But an acquaintance might turn into a friend, might turn into an enemy might turn into a friend might turn into an enemy, a boss might turn into, a subordinate. Once you get past this 9, it starts to break down into relativity, but you do have like one last step that just shows kind of objective relationships that you can have that may change, but those are the 3 that kind of can describe every relationship in your life. Your parent can even be an acquaintance, or they can be a friend. Kind of. Your sibling is better, maybe a better example, or your niece or your nephew. They could be acquaintances, they could be enemies, they could be friends of yours. So really, after this 9, uh, it really changes. So there you go. But the thing is, what's interesting is that when you look at singularity and oneness over here, and I'm thinking about 2 beings interacting, okay? So this is kind of one being, and this is kind of another. Um, just like when you're looking at my Observerse model, I think it's the Observerse. I don't. If it's not, and Eric Weinstein one day says this has nothing to do with my Observerse, I'll change the name of it. But I think that it's basically his Observerse. And you have this is one consciousness without on the outside, and this is the consciousness on the inside within the one above it. So you have this overlap, two four-dimensional conscious, beings overlapping to form six shared perspectives. So basically, when you go here, you're like singularity, oneness, and oneness. These are shared. Okay, they're like especially shared. So your friend, my friend, I am a friend to my friend. I'm an enemy to my enemy, and I'm an acquaintance to my acquaintance. If that makes sense. So if you have here, you have you are a niece nephew to an uncle aunt. Okay, so you are a grandparent to grandchildren. You are a child to parents. You are. Then you have the singular ones, which is I am a sibling to my sibling. I'm a spouse to my spouse. I am a cousin to my cousin. I'm a friend to my friend, an acquaintance to my acquaintance, and an enemy to my enemy. So these relationships are kind of intertwined. Aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, grandparent, grandchild, parent, child. But these ones are not. So I'm going to separate them. Because sibling, spouse, there. Sibling, you are a sibling to your sibling, friend to your friend, spouse to your spouse, acquaintance to your acquaintance, cousin to your cousin, and enemy to your enemy. So it's not this entangled relationship. It's just a mutual relationship. So you could say that these are mutual, or no, these are entangled. And then these are mutual. There. You can just entangled relationships. Mutual relationships. Okay? So all of a sudden, we can continue as we go on to find more and more pattern in this structure around us, of people around us. And we can, it's sometimes very much, it's sometimes much easier to identify a pattern on one level than it is on the other. So if you want to identify something involving, some things involving men and women, it's sometimes easier to look at protons and neutrons. But if you want to identify some things with with the relationships with the people around you in general, with family and friends and, you know, extended family like this, then sometimes it's easier to do it like this, and then you can apply it to other things like the standard model or, um, you know, chemical bonds and all kinds of things like that. So I guarantee you, whatever pattern we find here will also be present on the chemical level and on the atomic level and on the cellular level. But we have sometimes it's just much easier to find the pattern on one level first than another. And this one, it's very easy because it's linked with our firsthand experience. We don't even have to look at anything that's separate from us or that we perceive as separate from us. We just look at ourselves. And this is how you do the theory of everything, quote unquote, is it is a theory of everything. You have to go with that and really live it and apply it like you believe it, because it is true, first of all, but it, as long as you know how to apply it, for the most part, you can just look to human familial relationships for inspiration and guidance on quantum mechanics. And you can look to quantum mechanics for inspiration and guidance on human relationships. And anybody that doesn't believe that you can do that doesn't really believe in a theory of everything, quote unquote, or even a theory of everyone. But there, you know, I'll never forget Garrett Lacey and Eric Weinstein's interview on the Portal. There was this time where Eric was like, "Oh well, what? First we have to, you know, make clear what we mean by theory of everything. We mean something that unites quantum mechanics and general relativity. We don't mean something that, you know, is literally basically a theory of everything." And Garrett Lacey's like, "Yeah, we don't mean something that will explain love." It's like, yeah, well, if you believe that, then you're not going to come up, you're not going to deduce the theory of everything. It's, you don't come up with it, you deduce it. But it is a theory that does explain love, and it explains, you know, how human relationships follow the same pattern as atomic relationships. Did I spell that correctly? I don't know. I don't want to start another app. It's my computer's, I've put it through a lot today. So that's fascinating though, because we're starting to see this pattern where it goes 4 primary. So you would go merge, actually, merge. This would be primary, secondary, tertiary, and what comes after tertiary? I don't, quadratic. Spelled tertiary wrong. Quaternion. Quaterny. That makes sense. Okay. Cool. It was quaternion, but quaterny, quater, quaternary, quaternary. Oh my gosh, guys, that was a failure of speaking. But I mean, how often do you say words like that unless you are literally, a mathematician? In as so far as the academic, you know, definition. Quaternary. It's like almost too simple that it makes it difficult to say. Your mind wants to make it more complicated than it is. Okay. Boom. So then you have these. The way that you lay things out is so important. Every person that I've ever worked for, who I've done, data analysis for and laid out, my findings, has always appreciated like how much I put into just, you know, bolding this and bold you know, outlining this and coloring this, and just it makes it very easy to follow when you're looking at data or anything that's not just like a written page of a book or something. Okay. But remember that everything outside of your mind is outside of your body is also your mind. If you're interacting with it, it's part of your mind. So if you it's kind of like cleaning your room. If you clean your room, you clean your mind. If you organize your digital space while you're thinking, uh you organize your thoughts as well. Okay, this actually is going somewhere. Very cool. I am shadow banned from live chat, but I can still communicate if I copy, paste, or use a basic emoji. Okay, well, whatever you're doing, it's working, Torin. Because I can read what you're writing. I want to ask what you did, but maybe don't share that. You might be like double shadow banned. We're all getting banned on every platform pretty soon. It will be not allowed to have a goldfish channel on YouTube pretty soon. And I'm not joking at all. I'm being 100% serious. It's going to be considered animal cruelty. That's not a joke. It is going to be odd. The weirdest thing is the type of content that they are going to allow. I have no idea what exactly that's going to be. It's not going to make sense. Okay. So now we can try and apply this to another instance. So we can say, go here. And we can now look for this pattern in the standard model. Okay, so let's see. In the standard model, you have, I'm just thinking, I'm looking for 12. I'm looking for the number 12. So we have quarks, and you have 6, and then you have okay, let's just say you have up, charm, truth, down, strange, beauty. Then you also have electron, muon, tau, and you have electron, neutrino, what is going on? Come on. There we go. Muon, neutrino. And then you have tau, neutrino. And then you have, what else? I don't think I think that's all the fermions. Yeah, so okay, there we go. That's 12. Perfect. Thinking a bit slowly today. It's been a long day at work, but a good day, but just like a lot of work. Okay, so now we can find where these go here. So we need 4, and then we need 2, and then 3, and then 3. So, first of all, it might be easier to start here because we can go up, down, charm, strange, truth, beauty. You can go. Oh, okay. And then now we need these. So this sibling, friend, spouse, acquaintance, cousin, enemy. Okay, so look. Here we found another pattern. This is family, 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 not family, not family, not family. So we can now go, say, electron, muon, tau, electron, neutrino, muon, neutrino, tau neutrino. And what's interesting is that this should be an increasing of mass scale to some degree. So you should probably, or some, maybe it's distance from you in a lineage. It could be either. So sibling is the closest, then spouse, then cousin, kind of. I don't know. I don't think that's true. You could do this. Spouse. Sibling. Cousin. And then you would do maybe enemy, friend, acquaintance. So that might be a better order. So then we can go here and say like that. Perfect. I told you. You can always find the pattern. And you look for it by looking for symmetry. So here you say, okay, there's a differentiation happening. Here is family, family, family. Not family, not family, not family. Here you go, electron, muon, tau, which are, you know, the electrons, and then you have the neutrinos. So then here you have entangled relationships, up and down, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew. Something is down to that which is up. A niece is nephew is, you know, a niece and nephew to an aunt or uncle. An aunt or uncle is an aunt or uncle to a niece or nephew. These are entangled. A grandchild is a grandchild of a grandparent, and a grandparent is a grandparent of a grandchild. Parent is a parent of a child, and a child is a child of a parent. Whereas these are not entangled. But there's a hierarchy, and it's also there's a categorization happening here as well. It's almost like here there's two categories. And here there's three categories. Maybe. But now we have to go over to here. So parent and child are truth and beauty. So now we can kind of just like try and I don't really know where they would go here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at this one and mirror it. So we start with child. And child is beauty. B-E-A-U-T. Beauty. And then we could do parent, which is truth. And then we do Sibling, which is where the muon is, interestingly. And granted, we're going to find mistakes in this by doing this. We're going to find mismatches in the symmetry, which would indicate that we need to change and fix something here by seeing that it doesn't work there, which is like muon doesn't really make sense there. Electron makes sense there to me. And spouse should be, I mean, maybe not actually. Tau. Grandchild is right here, and that would be friend, or which would be strange. And then you have grandparent. Wait. Which would be charm. Okay, and then, that makes sense. Here we would have separate, which is cousin, which is right here. And then over here we have tau, where that is. Okay, so now I made a mistake somewhere. Spouse. Where's spouse? Okay, we should have electron. And then here we should have tau. Then we should have niece and nephew. Which would be down. And then we would have aunt and uncle, which is up. Then we would have singularity, which is friend, which is there, which is a muon, neutrino. And then acquaintance is at the very bottom, which is tau neutrino. Then one is without enemy, which is electron neutrino. Wow, I think that we found something, because for all the neutrinos to be here, that makes sense. Tau up, down, up. That's fascinating, because for there to be muon and electron here is just fascinating. Like, it might be wrong. It might be tau and electron that need to be there, and then this would be muon. But we're going to have to do a little bit of research to figure out if there's some type of mistake between those. But it is interesting that these is charm and strange, so that should be good. Beauty and truth, that should be good. Maybe it should be truth and then beauty, but we'll figure that out. But these two should be where they are. These are the only questionable ones that are really questionable. These might switch places, but these are the ones that I am a little bit curious about. Electron, muon, tau. It kind of makes sense almost that you would want electron, muon, tau here, and then you would want down, up would be here. But maybe not. Because if you did that, then you would just be still just looking at quarks, and that's not really a separate structure. Whereas if you're looking at electrons and quarks all appear, and then it's kind of like some separate structure. The odd part is, though, is that there's no neutrino either. But the fact that all the neutrinos are at the end, I think that makes sense. So I don't think that we got that wrong. I just think that neutrinos I think that neutrinos are an instance of observation of a lack of movement by the universe. So that's kind of my theory. Is that we see electrons when there's movement. We see neutrinos when there's like almost no movement. So, and maybe it's just us moving or something like that. But that might mean that it's not objective, which means it gets put into the quaternary like section over here. But we're definitely onto something. Amazing. Amazing. It's utterly amazing. We can do this again. Watch this. It's just blows my mind. People are like, what's the application? Endless application. So let's do, for the next one, oh wait. Let's do color. Color is always fascinating one because it's so easy, but it's also like so I don't know. It's like so applicable and intuitive. So let's do, we have red, orange, yellow. And it's also so well mapped already that you really can start to see some amazing, you can see when you're onto something. You have blue, green. Let's do green, blue, purple, purple. That's 6. Okay, so you have red, yellow, and blue. These are the primary colors. And then you have the secondary colors as green and orange. Okay. So that's not 12 though. You would do, what would be the next ones? Probably cyan, yellow, magenta. Color mixing. There's additive color mixing and there is subtractive color mixing. So subtractive color mixing is the creating a new color by the removal of wavelengths from a light with a broad spectrum of wavelengths. Additive color mixing is creating a new color by a process that adds one set of wavelengths to another set of wavelengths. So for instance, you have RGB and cyan, magenta, and um, primary green covers middle wavelengths. That's fascinating. I kind of knew that almost like intuitively. Green is an amazing color. It it's the color that emerges from nature when you get the merging of all other colors. So when you merge light and fire and water and you know, all these other things around us that have specific colors, like the sun and water, and obviously these are generalizations. And water, when you scoop it up into your hand, is not blue, and the sun is not really yellow. Really, it's like a bunch of, I mean, I don't even know what it is. It looks yellow to me. That's all that really matters. But when you look at the ocean, it does look blue. When you look at fire, it does look orange. This isn't meaningless. Color is one of the most intuitive things to look at because it it corresponds so well around us in our world with specific and applies to specific contexts that we don't even realize because we're not looking at the world with the right perspective. We're just like, oh yeah, why is water blue? Oh, because it's this reflection from the sky and like I don't really know exactly why. I've I mean I've known multiple times in the past, but I've forgotten. But the thing is that while that's important to understand subjectively, there's also an objective reason why water is blue and the sun is yellow and fire is orange and this is plants are green. Why is photosynthesis always seem to be green when it involves water and sunlight? Okay, which is yellow and blue. When you mix yellow and blue, you get green. It's not a coincidence. I'm not saying that I fully understand it. I don't, but it is a pattern that the more you look, the more you see it. There's something else going on to just than just our kind of like meaningless uh, definitions and explanations that we give for things where just, oh, water isn't blue because of any real meaning. It just is the way that it appears to our eyes. It's like, no, it appears to our eyes a certain way because it's conveying a certain meaning. Green heart, 528 hertz. I was going to ask you the other day why green. I just love the color green. I've always just loved the color green. I don't know exactly why. It just always symbolized life. Like there's green emerges when we think of green, we think of life. Think of a planet covered in vegetation and, you know, then oxygen and all these other things that we and will, you know, uh, just life. I don't want to say wilderness, but life. Think of a paradise. If I say paradise, like visualize that place in your mind. It's almost certainly a green place. Why? I don't know. But I think it's just because green symbolizes life to us. It's like when we first see life, it is green. That doesn't mean that life isn't beyond green. Life is beyond green, but when we recognize it as life, it's green. But the reality is that obviously molecules and I mean I don't know about obviously to me molecules and atoms are also living beings, but uh, you know, cells, which is where you start to get, you know, at the green level with photosynthesis, with things like algae and plants and on up, that that's when we first start recognizing life. But that's because things are happening on a timeline that we recognize there. but we don't recognize the fact that, atoms adapt. I don't want to say adapt, but yeah, adapt into different species that we call elements based on the conditions that they're exposed to. Those conditions are, you know, found in stars for the most part. But, and even after that, you can have decay occur and you can get different elements like lead and things like that. But you, we don't realize that things with involving atoms happen extremely slowly or extremely quickly. And both times it's beyond our perception. Plants are almost beyond our perception. I think it was after I said Bill Maher was the illegitimate son of Hugh Hefner. It was probably an algorithm that flagged my pattern of speech or something like that. That's funny. I mean, I can see it. I'm now building a list of things I can copy and paste, including this. I was going to ask you the other day why green, chlorophyll, the sun, pyramids, but I already knew why. C, you already knew too. Yeah, okay. Green is the color of oxygen. Water, water is a liquid crystal, a superconductor of light and sound. Everything is a liquid crystal, but yes, water represents everything. It's even in the Bible it says, God hovered of the waters. And Bruce Lee talks, he's like, be water. I love that when he's talking about water responds. It's like it can crash and it can flow. And that's why Bruce Lee says you should be water, because it gives you options, the ability to respond. When somebody comes at you with force, you go with it. When somebody, you know, uh, comes at you with flow, then you crash, basically. You just mirror. Okay, so the other reason why I thought green was such an like I knew green was such a special color was because when you're looking at like color mixing on a screen and you have red and green and blue, the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. So think about the world is we see red, we see blue, we see yellow in things like fire and the sun and water. But then life comes and it's like for the first time that we are able to perceive, and remember perception is what matters here, you get green, which is like the light is shining back at the light. So the universal light shines in, and then we get life, and life grows, and that is literally light shining back outwards. And but when you look at those red, blue, yellow versus red, green, blue, the only one that changes is green. So yellow changes to green, but yellow and green are reflections of each other. That's why this light from the sun is reflected in the green of photosynthesis. And that I've thought a lot about, but it's they're reflections of each other. Okay, so see the 12 colors. Why is the color cyan not on anything? What is so special about it? Okay, so let's look here. Cyan, magenta. So cyan should be between green and blue. Magenta should be between red and purple. Which should be attached to blue. Then we have orange, yellow, okay, we're at 8. Trying to think of all the colors that are used in like color mixing. Maybe white and black. People think, oh, that's a shade, it's not a color. No, it's... I'm gonna just call it a color this time because you can see it. If it was truly, truly not a color and not light, then you wouldn't be able to see it. And yeah, I know there's like special blacks that they try and get like that, where it's like Vanta black and everything like that. But let's just try this. 8. Is cyan blue or gray? Cyan color, a greenish blue, is notable tints of and shades. It is one of the subtractive primary colors, along with magenta and yellow. Interesting. Yellow. So you have these. My computer's freaking out. Then you have cyan would be red. No, it would be green. Or, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna get off Safari. This computer's having a hard time. Okay. There we go. If you'd like to contribute to this project, there's a link to my Patreon below. I would eventually like to get a more powerful computer. But I'm still working out how I'm going to work with the people on Patreon. The people who are on Patreon right now, I'm pretty sure, are on the Discord and participate in weekly calls with me. But I am going to eventually set it up so that there's certain tiers on Patreon where I will have like weekly calls with people that are one-on-one potentially, and things like that. But it's not set up yet, so I'm not saying, you know, that it's ready. But I want it to be something very objective and not just kind of a subjective scale. So I'm working on it. I want it, and I want it to be truly valuable, whatever it is. Not like, oh, you get videos a day early. Like, nobody really cares about that. Or at least I don't think anybody does. I'm not mocking anybody that does that. I'm just saying, you know. Okay, look at this. This is actually fascinating. Okay, so then green, red, and blue. So yellow, yellow, yellow. Cyan. Blue. Blue. Red. Magenta would be like green. And maybe we have orange. Purple. And green. Fascinating. It's almost like moving. Blue. Yellow is going here. Red is going here. Blue is here. Green is here. It's like a spin. There is a spin structure happening here. Like what we see in mathematics in the spin sequences. I can see it, but I don't know how to organize it. But that would be awesome if you basically... I'm sure you could do it. Where you took a spin sequence like this, and every 8 was a certain color, and 3 was a certain color, and 5 was a certain color, and it'd be easier to see the pattern that was happening. I don't even know if you can do that. I don't think so. Text that contains 3. Yeah, that's very time consuming, and I'm not going to get into it right now. But that would be a project. A very cool one. Okay. What about indigo, violet, and then we'll delete blue, yellow, and red, green. So far that's 10. So we're missing 2, which is exactly what I was expecting, because now we have black, white. Okay. That should be 12. Yep. All right. So black, white, Now we have to find two sets of 6 again, so just like before. See if we can get this to match up. We have indigo, purple, violet, magenta, cyan, blue, green, yellow, red would be here. Orange would be probably here, honestly. Green. White. Black. Okay, so one of these needs to move over. It's going to be that one. Okay, so now black, white, red, orange, indigo would be like that. Purple, violet, color is violet. That would be violet. Purple, magenta versus purple. Okay, good. Indigo versus blue. Indigo should be even more like that. Cyan, blue, green, yellow, orange, white. Okay, we did it. That took too long. But just when I say color is kind of intuitive, it is intuitive, but getting 12 objective colors is kind of difficult because you have to look for objective relationships when it comes to color mixing, like cyan, whereas it's not in the rainbow officially. We have white and black. Okay, so okay. magenta, purple, violet, purple, indigo, blue. There we go. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So now we can start organizing them the way that we did the others. So let's delete this so that it's not making a huge mess. Okay, so now we can go over here and start working. So one dependent relationship should definitely be, obviously, black and white. Then we have, so remember, we've got to have like entangled relationships here. And then mutual here. This is not easy. But you would want an alternating, so in this one right here, so you would have probably red and then yellow, and then magenta. No. Probably magenta, orange, purple, cyan, and violet, green. Let's try that. I don't know. I feel like it's like red and blue, cyan and magenta, and then like black and white. And these would be here. And then you would have, it's left over, violet, purple, indigo, yellow, orange, green. Something like that. interesting because ultraviolet is like super bright. It's like almost white. Magenta. Blue is kind of indigo-ish. Red is kind of the opposite of green on the color wheel. The reason why I went with magenta and cyan and red and blue is because they both are missing yellow. So I feel like they're both reflecting across yellow. So like cyan and magenta are reflecting across yellow, and red and blue are reflecting across yellow when you're looking at, I guess, additive color mixing. Or I don't even know if it's additive, but you have the primary colors, and then you have um, the mixing colors, and they kind of overlap here with red and blue, but green is where they're reflecting across in one form of mixing, and yellow with another. So I felt like they should be over here. Plus black and white, it's kind of like when you see light in the darkness, it's like yellowish. I know this sounds like so subjective, but it's really not. It's more objective than this is like super uh, super literal. Like it's like the equivalent of super literal when I say it's not a metaphorical. But it's not literal. It's super literal. It's like I was discussing numbers earlier today, and I said that our math that we think of as so objective is not, and that the logarithmic number line that is so simple that we think of as the base of all math is not actually the structure that emerges from the growth of information uh, initially. There are some numbers that come onto the number line due to looking at information that's been generated after the growth sequence. And then once you do that, then you basically can look at the relationships and fill in the gaps, kind of like what we're doing with this. But when we're comparing it to these original perspectives, oneness within, oneness without, things like that. But I'm pretty sure that this is basically correct. Maybe it's this, though. It's either this or this. This one or this one. Or maybe even, actually, that one. Oh no. Violet and orange. Let's look at a number. color wheel, violet. It's almost like cyan, the opposite would be like orange red. What if it's this? Could be that one too. Okay, let's look back over here. Aunt and uncle, niece and nephew, grandparent, grandchild, parent, child. Okay, so it's like getting increasingly relevant. So let's do actually parent should be white. Child should be black. It's counterintuitive, but it's not that light emerges from the darkness in reality. It's that the darkness emerges from the light because consciousness has always existed and it must perceive unconsciousness, which is aka darkness, in order for darkness to exist. But light, if white represents light, it represents consciousness, it always existed. It is darkness that had to be perceived and doesn't truly exist. It's just a subjective view of consciousness. So white is the parent and black is the child. But we, from our perspective, because we're inside the universe, we see white or light, emerging from darkness. But the reality is that it's that darkness emerges from light, from a God's eye view. So then maybe we do red. Actually, blue, and then red, and then blue. Then because masculine comes first, so blue is masculine. And then we go to cyan and magenta. Okay, so that's probably lines up well with that. And then we would want the next one to be, you go spouse, enemy, sibling. So spouse, sibling, cousin. Are family. Enemy, friend, acquaintance are not. So what is family here? Purple, violet, and indigo. And what is not? yellow, orange, and green. Dang. Like, think about that. This is like literally just a gradation, and this is not. It's like that. So now masculine goes first usually. Spouse is the top, so let's say it's green. Or maybe it's green, yellow, orange. Gosh, color has been the hardest one. Maybe it's that. I feel like it's actually maybe like that. I think that's it. It's interesting because green is a reactive color. It responds. Green is a responding color. It's like you have light, and then from that you get, photosynthesis. It's a responding color. It's not acting, it's reacting. It's literally a reaction. It's a chemical reaction in photosynthesis. So it's like really is like a reactive color. That means these are the reactive because they're the feminine, so that's good. Yellow and orange be like reactive. Indigo, purple, and violet would be active, which you'd think that they're feminine, but I think they're kind of acting masculine in this case. So let's go with that for now. That seems to make sense. Charm and strange. Blue and red. Up and down. Be like sienna magenta. Unless they would switch. Keep it at that for now. Gosh. And then let's try and fill in these. So now we just go back and we do the same thing that we did before. So inside here is child. Child is right here, and that would be black. Outside would be parent. Parent is right here. Parent here is white. That makes sense. That's exactly what I said. Separate is which is sibling, which is here. It's the third one down. So then we go here and it's purple. And then spouse, which is It'd be indigo. That's an interesting relationship. Okay. Then you have oneness within, which is grandchild, which is here, which over here is red. And then grandparent is blue. And then separate is cousin, and cousin is here, and that would be violet. Niece and nephew is there, which is magenta. Outside is aunt and uncle. Aunt and uncle is cyan. Then friend is yellow. Acquaintance is orange. And enemy is green. Okay, now let's just do this just so we can see the colors. So cyan, cyan, and black, black, and white, white, red, red, blue, blue, magenta. Violet, magenta. Purple. We'll see what we get here. It should look pretty cool. Show us some relationships going on. Orange. Okay. So that's it. Color. Not saying it's perfect, but it's close. Fascinating. You know what this is really? It's the binary triality, because you have 4 and 2, which is trialic because it's 2/3, 1/3. So it's 1/3 is 2, 2/3 is 4, and then you have 1/2, which is 3, and then 1/2, which is 3 down here. So it is the binary triality, basically, like arranged into a structure that shows even more information between them, because now you have a two-person perspective of the binary triality, which is like this 6 overlapping shared dimensions of perspective that occur when there's an interaction between two 4-dimensional conscious beings, which is every conscious being. Interesting. I don't know what the application is to this, but I guarantee you it's something amazing one day. Like, it's not. This is the type of stuff that is going to matter in the next round of physics breakthroughs. Is things like this where you take the patterns that we see, you see two patterns, three patterns, whatever, four patterns, and then you realize that there's this common pattern between them. You then contextualize them into that, and all of a sudden we have a brand new perspective on light. Like, why is it that purple and indigo are linked here, and but yet violet, magenta, and cyan are over here? I mean, this is kind of an easier one to understand, but this one is much more difficult. What this is emergence, and this is relational. So this is like when information is being generated, you start here and you go down, and from here it's just showing you balance. Like, it's not growth, it's balance. This right here would be, I guess you could say, growth. Blocks, and then these would be the balance blocks, kind of like that. It's like information balancing, and then this is information growth. Blocks of information balance. There. So that's the difference between these two structures. Separate. Interesting. It's literally like a loop. So go inside, outside, separate, singularity. And then you go from there, you get oneness within and oneness without, because then you realize, all those distinct perspectives are actually different perspectives of one thing because they're all entangled. Then, because you have oneness that you perceive after you perceive oneness, you intrinsically perceive separateness as well, because anything that's one with you is not separate from you. So you perceive separate, and then it loops back around and you get oneness again. What is this? 1, 2, 3. Okay, hold up. It's 4, 2, 3, 3. We go to my information change thing here. Let's see if we can find that. Four, 2, 3, 3 is 13, and it's 4. But 4, 2, 3, and 3 is also, it's 12. This is, what is that? 9. Where is it? Here it is. Interesting. When you sum 1 through 9, you get 45, which is the number of branching that happens in SO10, which is like a theory of everything, proposed theory of everything that's definitely onto something from what I can see. Then on the 10th one, which is 10 is 1 and 0, so it's like infinite oneness. You get singularity again, right here. And the sum is 55. The average is 5.5. So it's like singularity in my model represents inside of inside. Okay? Or inside and outside. So like if you're going to go here and you're like, singularity is it's basically oneness, which is outside and inside of separateness, but it's inside of inside is really what it is. So inside of inside is the average is 5.5, the sum is 55. So it's inside of the count of 10 is 55, and then inside of that is an average of 5.5. It's like a singularity. It's like an infinitely repeating singularity. And then when you go to 11, you get a count of 11, and you get a sum of 66 and an average of 6. Interesting. And then 12, you get 78. It's like, I don't know what that means. If it was 72, I would get it, but 78, I don't know what that means. It's 6 more than 72, which 72 makes sense. 72 comes up, it's like 720 degrees of rotation to the fermions, and then it's the number of degrees that manifest in my cosmological verse is 720, which is basically 72. Just adding a 0, but 0 is not a number that really means anything in this field. It means infinity. So it means like it's just another iteration of the same, like 720 is just another iteration of 72. You can see that when you look at the periodicity of sentience and you divide them by you start with 720, you divide each one by the step. So you divide 720 by 1, then 720 by 2, 360, 720 by 3, 240, and then once you get to 7, it turns into an infinitely repeating decimal, and it's all weird, kind of like, it looks like it's interesting because in the Bible it says God rested on the 7th yom. Yom means period in direct translation. It doesn't mean day, like 24-hour day, like our experience of a day. It means period, which could mean a day, but it also could mean something else. And what's interesting is I think that this periodicity that I identified aligns with something called bot periodicity, and it's literally called bot periodicity, and it is aligns exactly with the Torah. But on the seventh yom, the seventh period, you get disorder, and you get an infinitely repeating decimal because you go 720 divided by 7, which basically you get that infinitely repeating decimal of that you get whenever you divide anything by 7 that's not divisible by 7. And then order returns on the eighth yom, kind of like the miracle of Hanukkah. And then, which really, Hanukkah is metaphysic, like the metaphysics of Hanukkah. It's not about the Maccabees and everything. It's about, like, the menorah is a tree of light, aka a tree of life. It happens around Christmas, which is celebrated with the Christmas tree, which is also a tree of light. And it's basically like every light, the tree of light is continued due to an ascension that happens, which is a miracle in Hanukkah, but it is, you know, Christ in Christianity. It's that the tree of life would have burned out, but it doesn't because of a miracle, which is a process of ascension, which is the other half of evolution. It's like evolution is adaptation and ascension. It's not just adaptation. But we're going to talk deeply about that maybe even tomorrow in another. But I'm going to wait till I have like the camera and I'm set up a bit better. Okay. Let's see. Any questions before I wrap it up? But I think this is a good place to stop. Kind of shows what I mean by there's this block of information balance and there's these blocks of information growth. And these two perspectives I found pretty much everywhere that I looked, from, the fermions here to the primary perspectives to the familial relationships and now with the colors. And I guarantee you could find this somewhere else. You should try it. I mean, if you're really interested in this stuff, like, give it a shot. Think of another category, like sound. I'm not as good with sound as I'm not as literate, I guess, which sounds weird, but if you are, give sound a go, or you could do the senses or the limbs, things like that. Anyways, I would wager you will be a member soon. Oh man, Tyler, I stumbled into something you might want to check out. The Green Dragon Society. I'll send you a link elsewhere. Is that something I want to be a part of? I literally can gather no information by that name alone. I would wager you will be a member soon. $10 on in less than a year. I've been skimming the info. Maybe complementary colors. Sound and light spectrum, green and yellow. The center of the rainbow. Interesting. That makes sense. It's kind of weird, but I think I understand the color grid now. The color wheel is subtractive. Yeah, I get what you're saying, I think. The Hanukkah candle makes a lot more sense these days. Oh, the Hanukkah is amazing. People say it's not even an important Jewish holiday. They don't realize it's celebrating the same thing as Christmas. It literally is. It's not celebrating presents like Christmas is. I mean, it is celebrated with presents as well, but it is celebrating the ascension of the Messiah to save life, the tree of life. That's what it is celebrating, which is exactly what Christmas celebrates. The king of the tree of life, other than, God the Father. Colors can relate to music. Yeah, one of the things I want to do before I go, actually, is, if you haven't seen this, on my YouTube channel. I posted this today. It's only like 40 seconds, but eventually I want to do an interactive. Why am I logged out of YouTube? Weird. It's weird. You get all like the things that are suggested to everyone else, to like people who are not logged in. It's like that does not look like my feed, but I'm not logged in for some reason. That's very weird. But if you look here, this is what I posted today, and interesting. So yeah, you can do that. I want eventually to do kind of like an interactive sound.
Thanks everyone for showing up today for this workshop on causal inference.
Thanks. Gosh. Causal inference. I did not click on that. But then one day I want to build an interactive model of the cosmological verse and just have it respond with sounds and colors and symmetries, and you click on one and it'll highlight the symmetrical, like if you click here it would highlight maybe here and here and here, and you click here and it would highlight here and here and here. So it basically like highlight all the symmetrical elements of it. So maybe if you highlight all of this, then it would highlight all of this. Well, so basically, and it would make a sound, and I would want that sound to be a symmetrical tone, and I'm not good enough at music to know how to do that yet, but some members of this community are very good at music, and even if, you know, I had to do it alone, I could figure it out at some point. But if anybody has any skills that they want to lend to this type of stuff, that is more valuable than any Patreon donation that you could make. So if you want to join our Discord, I have a live call with everybody that goes on for hours. It's open on anything. It's always a great group on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Message me privately on Instagram and I will send you the link to it. And, you know, get in touch with me if you have any kind of cool coding, musical animation skills. And like, I would eventually like to build a model that is kind of interactive, like if you look at this E8 particle explorer. This is the E8 particle explorer created by Garrett Lisi, and you can move it and look at it from all different perspectives, and you can change it to E7. There we go. There's E7. You can change it to SU5, Petit Salam, SO10. Then you can like spin it around. You can look at all the different groupings. This has been an invaluable tool for me over the years, just to see, you know, whether or not certain patterns that I had deduced were actually found in by others, and they definitely are. I mean, this is a structure that is framed by four, you know, entangled, or aka reflective perspectives, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then within it it's 9, which is really 6 plus this center that they're reflecting across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the same thing as like my quantum of consciousness and coming from 4 primary perspectives being 6 fundamental perspectives in a 9-dimensional event. It's the same exact thing, but it's just represented differently. And it's but something like this, but musical and using my structure like this, which I think this is basically E8, but it's just a E8 with more hierarchical context as opposed to just relational or balanced context. So basically, my model shows the balance the balanced information blocks, and also the growth information blocks that we were just kind of looking at. Right here. So this is blocks of information growth. Mine shows this, and it also shows blocks of information balance, whereas Garrett Lacey's E8 mostly shows information balance, but it might show information growth too if you are literate enough in how he built it and some of the relationships between, you know, the forces and the particles that emerge, like particularly the bosons. But even then, that's almost like, unless you're showing in the model that this comes from these two and that is like a growing of information, you're basically just still showing balance. But it's just, you know, this is amazing. It's an amazing piece of work. It's one of the greatest models I've ever. It's probably the greatest physics model I've ever seen. That is, you know, interactive. Garrett Lacey wrote the exceptionally simple theory of everything, which was great. I mean, and it was exceptionally simple, and he was definitely onto something, and I'm sure he's made adjustments, and he's still onto something. Look at that. You see that? We think that the people in the past were, you know, just religious nuts, and that we're so wise with science. Look at that. It's the Star of David. We look over here. The strong interaction. It is literally the flower of life. So the flower of life is the strong interaction, and then what is which one was the where did I see the Star of David? There we go. The E6 code Coxeter. I don't know what that means. But and then you have the strong interaction. It's like these are ancient symbols. And they're being rediscovered in physics, in the geometry of particle interactions. It's amazing. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna call it. Yeah, Chris is right. Discord group is a great group, and this was a great stream, though. This was fascinating. These like information blocks. See if you guys can figure out a different one. Then just build like these exact two charts, I guess, and then just start pick something to look at and start filling in information and look at the relationships, and see if you can you know, fill in the gaps and then post about it in our Discord. Are we perhaps the blockchain? Yes, we are the blockchain. That is a fact. So is DNA. So is mathematics. There's only the blockchain. Okay. Thanks, everyone. And I